Well, hey, church. Hey, thanks for joining us for our 5-minute devotions. Appreciate your faithfulness to it. We have over 60 plus of them. I think we're pushing 70 videos that you can check out online at any time. It includes all kinds of topical studies as well as over 20 character studies that we've done of men and women throughout the Old and New Testament. It may be interesting to you, or you can just share them with somebody, one of your friends. We're going to be looking at this guy, Jonah. You know, we all know the great fish story of Jonah and how he's swallowed up by this fish or this whale, and God still continued to use him. But I wanted to focus today on who he is and his mission and some of the things he struggled with. Jonah, as we know, is a great prophet, and he was a contemporary of Amos. And Amos's focus was to let the people of Israel know that if they did not turn away from worshiping other gods in their region and not have their complete 100% focus on God, Yahweh, that he was going to exile them. Sure enough, this prophecy comes true. Jonah is called in particular to one of those places in the overall kingdom, and it was in Nineveh. God called Jonah to go to Nineveh. And of course, we know the story. If you've been a church kid in the past or have taught this lesson, you know the whole story. But he's meant to go to Nineveh, and what he says is, I ain't going. In fact, I'm going to run as far away as I can into an unknown place, as far away from God. So the first thing we find out about Jonah is he has some incredible fear. And I wonder if it isn't just generated out of his fear of the Lord or the fear of doing his job. Maybe he fears that he's not the man or he cannot accomplish this, but he certainly he's scared. And what God does through that is God shows up in Jonah's life immediately by casting lots that showed that God was in control by those lots, because it fell on Jonah that he was the one. And the great storm that happened as he tried to run away from, or literally sail away from God with other people, and then finally getting sucked up by the fish, the great whale, and spit out, and still having to do his mission. So God all the way along was addressing these concerns, these fears, these apprehensions that Jonah had. Secondly, it seems as if Jonah was a man who suffered from depression. He had great highs, great lows, great times of victory and despair, this thought of euphoria, and then just falling into depression, these pendulum swings. And even to the point of saying, God, just take my life. And he doesn't just say it once, but he says it twice. God, just take my life. But through all this, Jonah does finally submit to God, and God uses him as his instrument and his mouthpiece for the city of Nineveh. This town in particular was 8 miles around, and it's said to require 3 days to visit it. A very large town. In fact, they said it was close to 120,000 people or more. And because Jonah submitted to God and became his mouthpiece, even with his struggles, God was able to save 120,000 people. And I think that's an amazing story. Folks, what are you fearing as you consider God's calling in your life? Maybe you have a hard time communicating with family members. Maybe sharing the gospel is difficult for you. It's difficult for you to connect with a neighbor or a coworker or a friend. God is with you. And this same God you can't run away from. He can use you as his instrument if you submit to him. Perhaps you struggle with something out of your control, or maybe it's partially in your control. You have an addiction. You have a medical issue, or maybe like Jonah had depression. God can use you, and he can still use you as this instrument that he can mold and shape if you're willing to submit to him. And that's really what I see out of Jonah, and I hope you caught that as well. And you and I can be able to say, as Jonah did, that God is a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger, abounding in love. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it, and we'll see you again soon.